Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Monday, August 12th, 2024. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, she is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. And Sheila, you know, I normally defer to some thing of significance happening in the national or international calendar day, but I couldn't find anything of significance, or at least anything of significance I could make a lame-hearted attempt at humor parroting. So just a straight introduction. I hope you're getting over the fact that the Paris Olympics came to an end yesterday.
I can't believe you're skipping over the fact that it is that control freak, oligarch, power broker, professional meddler's birthday today, George Soros. Soros, it's his birthday today. Still kicking because the devil don't want him. He, what is he? His birthday is August 12th, 1930. So what does that make him?
That makes him, according to, that's 94, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct? And you're talking to somebody that failed grade 11 math. I really did, folks.
Yeah.
I figured that up like that. Who needs one of those Texas Instruments calculators? Remember those, Sheila, or did they go out of business before you were born?
No, I had to spend a lot of money to buy one for my daughter to do grade 12 advanced placement calculus. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure an app on your phone does this. Thank you very much. But yeah, George Soros, professional meddler. He had an estimated net worth of $8.6 billion in March 2021 after donating more than $32 billion to open society foundations so that he could disperse it to fix elections, get light on crime prosecutors elected, and send the United States into absolute social chaos.
You know, isn't it amazing, the likes of a Soros, the likes of a Bill Gates, Sheila, they're all in, I think, in a version of Marxism. They denounce capitalism, but you know what? Capitalism was very, very good for those cats. So after they make their multi-billion-dollar fortune, suddenly, yeah, I'm okay, Jack. Let's tear everything down, build it back up as a Marxist utopia. You'll have nothing and be happy. You'll eat crickets and say, good. It is the ultimate act of hypocrisy, Sheila, that the system that worked for them is suddenly the one that has to be torn down. It is absolutely despicable.
Well, that's like, I mean, all the evil types of the world use our best qualities against us, right? Like they use our compassion against us to shoehorn, and our tolerance against us, and our pluralism against us to shoehorn all their radical religious and gender ideologies on us. And I don't think there's a distinction between religious and gender ideologies. I think they are a religion. But, you know, for the amount of business acumen that George Soros has, because obviously he does have some, it's fascinating that his biographer, Chrystia Freeland, learned so little about business in her time with him. But we should, before we get into the nuts and bolts of what we're doing here and how people can get involved and how they can support Rebel News, we've got a very special message from our partners at Rumble. It's about 5G free. Now, who's in control of America's nukes? Is it Biden? Oh, good gracious, I hope not. Meanwhile, we have Russian ships off the coast of Florida and full-blown wars in Ukraine and Israel. The world is at its most unstable point since World War II, except now, with nuclear weapons, the stakes are 10 times higher. How do people like you and I stay safe? Every prepper, and you know I'm a bit of one, needs to have RadioGuard ASE, the only FDA-approved drug to treat radioactive fallout. Only the feds have it until now. That's why we've partnered with 5G Free, the only company in the world that has a supply of Radio Guard ASE and the ability to prescribe it prophylactically. What a fun word. Get their radiation emergency kit with Radio Guard ASE, potassium iodide, Zofran, and a Geiger counter. There's simply no other tool in your arsenal to protect against a radioactive threat. Go to 5gfree.com/studio and use the coupon code studio to save 10% off. We have a radiation kit, and so should you. That's 5gfree.com/studio, code studio. All right. So I should tell everybody what we're doing here today. So this is Rebel Roundup. Used to be a daily show, then a weekly show, and now we're trying it out a little bit more frequently. We're giving the people what they asked for, wherein we talk about the news of the day, completely unscripted, and we give you a chance to get involved. So you'll see David and I banter back and forth, but we'd love to banter with you too. So if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for sticking it out on that censorship platform. But if you want to support us and have your say, might I suggest you head on over to Rumble. It's a great free speech platform. Doesn't care what your opinions are, which is, I think, how you want it. And you can do something called a Rumble rant on Rumble. It's their version of a paid chat. It helps us keep the lights on here at Rebel News. If your Rumble rant is over the $5 US benchmark, we'll read it live on air. We'll do our best to respond to it, but don't let that be the bar for entry. If you have a rant that's lower than that $5 US, quite frequently we'll read it on air and get chatting, because sometimes we even read the free stuff on air. So those are the rules. David Menzies, what do you want to talk about first?
Well, Sheila, we are now, I think, officially in the dog days of summer. But, the hobos for Hamas, they don't take any time off. They don't take summer off. They always ramp up their hate fest, especially when it's bright and sunny and they have an audience. And I think we have a couple of clips. The first one we'll throw to, I think, Sheila, is, knock me down with a feather, calls for jihad. Not in Ramallah, but on Parliament Hill in Ottawa. And then I think we'll throw to some video from the People's Democratic Republic of Brampton, where Lincoln Jay and I went on Saturday for a Justin Trudeau fundraiser. Ooh, what an ugly reception Justin received there. So why don't we, which is now becoming de rigueur, and from demographic elements, Sheila, that, well, once upon a time would be applauding him, all of which, don't get me wrong, folks, this is good news, very good news.
Yeah.
So why don't we see what was happening on Parliament Hill, shall we?
Fight, and this is how we go. إنه لجهاد إنه لجهاد إنه لجهاد بارك الله فيكم. Fight, and this is how we go.
So the vagabonds of the Third Reich are out there on Parliament Hill. Nobody is even wondering where they're getting all the matching signs, where that funding is coming from for this, like that, to put something together like this, as organized as that. It's not cheap and it's not free. I bet you some of these people are bussed in. Now, I do believe they are true believers in Hitler's ideology, being, Hitler's derelicts, rent a mob. But this isn't cheap and this isn't free. So who's paying for this? Now, we know through, I think it was Senate or Congress testimony in the United States, that Iran is funding a lot of this stuff, social unrest in the United States and in North America writ large. Have those good folks at FinTrack, whose last bold action was to freeze farmers' bank accounts if they gave $20 to a trucker during the Freedom Convoy. Have they investigated any of this? Have any bank accounts been frozen? You know what? I'm wondering if even that, and I think we'll talk about it maybe later, but the ISIS guy in Toronto, who was seen on camera in an ISIS video chopping at a crucified captive with a sword, I wonder if his bank account was ever frozen. No, they just did it to Justin Trudeau's greatest opposition since his election, the Freedom Convoy. You know, the difference between the two protests is palpable, and you can't ignore it.
You know, and I just want to continue your thought process, Sheila, on who is funding it. I think you're right. Iran is coughing up a lot of funding via its proxy groups. But if that is the case, then ultimately it is the Biden administration in the White House funding this. When we go back some 4 years ago, Donald Trump put sanctions on Iran. Basically, our boot was on Iran's throat. They were a broke nation. They were teetering almost as a failed state, I would argue, because there was no money, there was nothing in the cupboard. Under the Biden administration, those sanctions haven't been lifted, but they're not enforced. So if you don't enforce a law or you don't enforce a sanction, it's like having no law at all. Suddenly, Iran right now on the world stage is flush with billions and billions of dollars, thanks to being able to sell oil on the world market, a lot of it to China. And with the profits that this Islamo-Nazi regime is making, they go out and they fund Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis. And you know, Sheila, suddenly the world is a much less safe neighborhood, I would argue, than it was 4 years ago. Wouldn't you say? I mean, you know, we could be on the brink of World War III. And, you know, when people, I've seen scholars weigh in on why would the Biden Democrats go down this route? Why would you take the brakes off these sanctions and allow them to fund terror, allow them to potentially go to war with Israel? And it's this crackpot idea of equilibrium that right now in the Middle East, Israel is very powerful, and we got to, you know, put our thumb on the scales to make them more equal by arming Iran, by, you know, having them flush with money. I know it sounds preposterous, but if that isn't the reason this crackpot left this idea, Sheila, then why would you do that? Why would you allow this snake? And by the way, when I say snake, I am, of course, talking about the regime. I mean, I live in a city north of Toronto, Richmond Hill. I believe the Persian minority is as high as 14% right now. Greatest people you can meet, entrepreneurs. They fled the regime. In fact, the only Persian I've ever had a problem with is in Richmond Hill is, guess who? The MP for Richmond Hill, Majid Johari, the only guy I found that actually supports the regime. But, you know, that's what I trace this back to, because when Trump was in power, Sheila, you did not see this, not at all.
No, you didn't. And I think Trump had a bit of that Reagan ideology of peace through power. But I think to address your question, why are they doing this? You and I talked about this when we were in Israel. Israel, I think, is the most American place outside of America. I think even more so American than like parts of Canada, although I feel like we in Alberta are sort of more of the American ethos than our friends to the left or the right of us in this country. And I think a lot of it is just that same old anti-Americanism nonsense that comes from the American left. And so you hate America, you want to tear it down, you don't want to protect it, you want to flood it with people who will change the culture, and you want to do that to the other American places of the world. Like, Israel is democratic almost to a fault, where it seems like, I'm like, it's noon, I think you had 2 elections today. You know what I mean? Like, it's constant democracy happening in Israel. It's the only place where there is a love it or leave it, a pride parade. I think they have 2 in Tel Aviv. It's the only place where Christians and Druze and Muslims and Jews can all serve in parliament together in the Middle East. But there's no other place where that happens, because it is so committed to the idea of freedom and equality. And that's a very American thing. And if you hate America, as so many of the left do, which is very, like very Iranian. Yeah, there's the great Satan and then there's the little Satan, right? And I think that's a lot of that. The American left just hates America, and so you would hate the little America too, where so many of the people, by the way, are dual citizens in Israel. But getting back to my original point about the treatment of the protests, what they were saying in that video that we showed everybody there, they're saying victory or martyrdom.
Oh, yes.
In Arabic. Like that's a violent call there. And happening on Parliament Hill. And you have to remember, we are dealing with a government that invoked the Emergencies Act illegally to deal with bouncy castles, horn honking, and street concerts.
Yeah. And, but the fortunate thing is, Sheila, is that when it comes to the M word, martyrdom, these cats are all bark and no bite, as far as I can tell. For over 2 months, the University of Toronto King's College Circle was overtaken with the members of the Hitler Youth Movement, and they rebranded it. It was like Palestinian Martyr Circle and Martyr this and Martyr that. There was like about 4 names, I think, at one point, most of them using the word martyr. Martyr means dying, like putting your life on the line for a belief or for an ideology. But when push came to shove, the hobos for Hamas, they skedaddled out of there once all the legal wrangling were done, and the police said you got until high noon or else it's going to be whack 'em and stack 'em. Wow, what a bunch of martyrs. These kids don't even want to lose their cell phone, let alone put their lives on the line. And you know what? That's a good thing. But my worry, Sheila, with the Justin Trudeau Liberals, for whatever reason, thinking it's a winning political move, putting out 5,000 visas for Gazans, and that means more than 5,000 Gazans, that because they'll be family members, so it could be over 10,000. And why am I concerned about that? Well, recent polling shows that even in the aftermath of the war that's been raging for 10 months, some 80%, I think was the last number I saw, Sheila, of Gazans support Hamas. So I think about, there's an episode of The Simpsons where the town gets a soccer team, and it's hyped to the hilt and it's sold out the stadium, and basically when they drop the ball and start playing, it's so boring, right?
Yeah,
that the fans in the stands start fighting, and Willie, the groundskeeper, originally from Scotland, observes what's going on. And he says words to the effect of, you call that a soccer riot? And he, out of his kilt, he pulls a lead pipe to smash some heads. And I have a feeling that when the Gazans come over here, there might be more of a commitment to martyrdom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right now these itinerants, these Nazi itinerants roaming the streets, I think they are more committed to your martyrdom than theirs, right? And we showed that picture, however briefly, of protesters posing for a photo standing on the Israeli flag, which, I mean, you may as well be holding a swastika, but they're standing there, standing on the Israeli flag. Yep. Where are the mainstream media worrywarts to track down the identity of the people doing this? Because if you were a grandma making a pro-convoy posting on your private Facebook page, they wanted to know who you were. They doxed all the donors to the Freedom Convoy. They don't seem to be all that intellectually curious about who these people are. Remember the firestorm of and I will say it, and I will take it to my grave, the false flag of the Nazi flag down at the Freedom Convoy? These people lost their marbles. I was like, that's fake. Fakety fake, fake, fake. And you know how I know it's fake? Because they never bothered to identify the guy. With the same ferocity that they identified anybody who donated to the Freedom Convoy. Why aren't they looking into these guys? They don't seem to care who these people are.
Yeah.
At all.
No, that swastika, quite literally a false flag. But 2 points to your point, Sheila. first of all, reverse the identity politics of that photo. Have that flag, the flag of Palestine, with a bunch of, visible Jews standing on it. Can you imagine the outrage and the clamor?
Hate crimes charges. Hate crimes charges coming, 100%.
And also, where that photo was taken, I would estimate about a football field away, is the Terry Fox statue. I want to know, I really, really want to know if during that day of hate or rage or martyrdom, whatever they called it, did they drape Terry Fox in a Palestinian flag? If anyone out there was in Ottawa that took a shot of that area, please send it along, because when the Freedom Convoy, and I think I told you this, Sheila, the first day of the Freedom Convoy, and this speaks of, how horrible the mainstream media is. I wasn't able to get out there from Toronto, but I was driving and I had 680 News on, and I heard that the Terry Fox statue had been vandalized and desecrated, and I slumped over the steering wheel. I go, oh no. What hooligans, what Lugans came out to this protest that they would do that. And then only to learn later the desecration of the statue was wrapping Terry Fox in a Canadian flag. Now, listen, if that is the benchmark for desecration of the statue, so be it. But every time the Gay Pride Parade is off and running in Ottawa, they drape that statue in the rainbow flag, and nobody says anything about desecration. I'm getting tired of this double standard and vilification of certain groups, Sheila.
Let's see how close we can stay on schedule. I think we're about a minute behind. I'm doing my best, Olivia. I really am. To just sort of professionalize what we're doing here, as if that were possible. We've got a video from independent journalist Karima Saad, and it is odd. She said, "This might be the first time I've seen police preemptively ask protesters to remove their face coverings or leave the demonstration. I think this is a change for the good." I remember the Harper government tried to make it illegal, I think tried to or did make it illegal, and then the Liberals repealed it. Covering your face in a demonstration was illegal. And then the Liberals were like, no, we don't want to give the police the ability to crack down on lawless thugs rioting in the streets. Anyway, let's show this video, and then we'll go to an ad break right after that.
Part of a lawful assembly is you have to be unmasked. Yeah, wear a mask, you have to leave. Not sure about that. Yep. Section 63. Section what? 63. Can I look it up? Absolutely. That would give you any. Okay, that's good. I think it's 63 or 66. Just look up the definition of what makes a lawful and unlawful assembly. Part of a lawful assembly is not being
Well, Sheila, if I can just jump in, that was the event Link and Jay were at on Saturday. I had that happen before we arrived. I had an interaction with that police officer, and I walked away thinking, what a good guy. And the benchmark for me in terms of calling a cop a good guy is when they don't physically assault me and arrest me.
The bar is very low. Very low.
But he was at the gate and he was very politely saying, "I'm so sorry, you can't go into the venue. That's only state-funded and state-approved media like CBC." But, to my original point of there's no point in having sanctions if sanctions aren't enforced, he went out there and he laid down the law with those two guys who look like they're attending a Nash the Slash concert and dressing up like the artist, and telling him you can't do that. But I can tell you for the entire day that demonstration went on, Sheila, those guys remained masked up. So, and I'm not necessarily blaming the officer, but it would have been nice to have some backup and say, look, you either take off that disguise or we're charging you, because that is the law. But they just said, I'm warning you, kind of like devolving into a professional wrestling referee. And if you don't listen to my third warning about using a foreign object, I'm going to warn you a fourth time not to use a foreign object. You know what? Let's lay down the law. If the law's on the book and the officer cited it and those guys looked it up to confirm it, well, charge them. Otherwise, it's a toothless tiger, wouldn't you say, Sheila?
Yeah. So I just thought I would dig it up because it was over 11 years ago when all of this happened with the wearing a mask during a protest. So what they do is stop it, criminal code website. So section 63.1 of the criminal code is what makes an assembly lawful or unlawful. And so if you are three or more persons with intent to carry out an assembly as to cause persons of the neighborhood fear or reasonable grounds that they will disturb the peace. So that's the unlawful assembly. Now, in 2013, Stephen Harper's government amended section 65 of the criminal code, so just down from this one, which made it illegal to conceal your identity during an unlawful assembly. So that's why the cops were saying, like, under section 63, they were basically saying, you guys are here to disturb the peace. So now your little assembly is unlawful. And so now under section 65, you got to take your mask off. Now that is very nearly unheard of these days that the police are enforcing that law, because policing has never been so politicized in this country. And it's very rare to see a left-wing protest treated the same as a right-wing protest. The thing is, normally at a right-wing protest, they don't wear masks.
Yeah, but that is the point, though, Sheila. It wasn't enforced. The officer said, here's the law, please obey it. And they go, no. And
they're like, okay, well, I guess have it your way.
Yeah. And I'm going to give you a hypothetical situation. Let's pretend the police actually grow a spine, or at least their chiefs do, and decide to lay down the law of the land and ban this. What happens, pray tell, Sheila, when these demonstrators show up not wearing a tablecloth wrapped around their heads, but, I don't know, wearing a burqa, even though they're not Muslim, not female? How are we going to navigate those tricky waters, pray tell?
We just won't. Remember, you went to vote wearing a burqa.
Yeah, that's right. And we had a 15-year-old. We had a 15-year-old go to 3 LCBOs and buy hard liquor, no questions asked,
Sambuca,
wearing a burqa.
Sambuca, which is how we knew it was a 15-year-old. Like, I'm just going to assume that, like, if you're there buying sourpuss or Sambuca, I'm just going to assume that you're like a young kid, because they don't know any better, I guess.
Well, that was actually my drink of choice back in the day, Sheila. But believe me, I'm on to much harder stuff now as the world has gotten crueler.
Greek grandmother drinking Sambuca. Okay, well, let's do another ad read from our friends at Rumble. Then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll be back at it with the sights and sounds, and I imagine smells. Thank goodness we don't have smell-o-vision from our friend Alexa Lavoie, who was out on the streets of Montreal covering the Pride protests or Pride demonstrations there. But first, a message from Positive. Cutely named, by the way. Do you rely on big woke corporations and the corrupt medical establishment to keep you healthy? I do not. Sunshine and beef, my friends. Hopefully not. Then why would you trust the same globally owned corporations to keep your pet healthy? I know David loves his dog, and so do I. She's under my desk right now. It's time we stopped relying on them for anything. They hate us. They want to keep us sick and just want our money. We at Rumble started Positive Health because pets are an extension of our family, and it matters that they get clean, nutrient-filled, vitamin-rich superfoods to stay healthy and happy. That's why we created a range of superfood supplement waffles. I want to eat those that your pet will love, packed with natural, healthy ingredients that promote better digestive support, bone health, vision, and immune strength. They're also rich in anti-inflammatories, vitamins, and minerals essential for your furry family members. So head on over to Positive, PAWSITIVE.com right now to check out our superfoods and other products. Use coupon code STUDIO to save 15% on your subscription offer. Again, that's positive, as in pause, positive.com. All right, let's hit Rebel News quick ad break, and then we'll go into, as I said, the horrors for the eyes that was the Montreal Pride Parade.
Hi, everybody. As you know, every year we do a fundraiser for Rebel News that's super fun. It's a Rebel News cruise. We all go on a cruise ship together. We have dinner with each other. We have seminars when the ship's at sea, like Q&A sessions. And the rest of the time is your own. It's a vacation. It's a way to connect with other Rebel News enthusiasts. It's a way to check in with me and Sheila Gunn Reid and Drea Humphrey and David Menzies. Tons of Rebels are on the trip, and at the end of the day, it's a way to keep Rebel News strong because there's a little extra added to the cost, which is how we float the boat here at Rebel News. It's a fundraiser. Here's the next Rebel News cruise in case you've always wanted to go on one. It sets sail out of Vancouver June 18th, 2025. It's a week-long, June 18th to 2025, and it's Vancouver to Alaska. So it's a lot easier to get to than a Caribbean cruise where you have to fly to Florida to set sail. Starts in Vancouver, where I'll greet you, Sheila, David, Alexa Lavoie, Drea Humphrey. It's a super fun trip. I've done it before. We go to Skagway, which is where the gold rush started. We go to Glacier National Park, which is as beautiful as it sounds. Go to rebelnewscruise.com to learn more, to check the pricing, and to book your cabin. Just let me rattle off some of the details of the places we're going. It's called the Alaska Inside Passage Cruise. If you know what that means, you go up right along the coast. It's on Holland America, so it's nice. It's the MS Zandam. That's the name of the ship. Obviously, we start off in Vancouver, next the Tracy Arm Inlet, then Juneau, the capital of Alaska, Skagway, by far my favorite city. It's amazing. Then Glacier Bay. Maybe the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life. Back to Ketchikan and then down to Vancouver. If you like cruising, this is a super way to do it with fellow travelers, ideologically speaking. If you've never cruised before, this is a great way to start. And if you've been on Rebel News cruises, well, you don't want to miss this one. Again, for details, go to rebelnewscruise.com. It's next June, so just under a year away, but not too soon to order and to get the early bird discount. I'll see you at sea.
Now, Sheila Gunn Reid, are you going to be on that boat? Are you going to abandon ship like it did earlier this year on the Caribbean cruise?
Do you think that I canceled the Caribbean cruise because I just had something better to do? I had obligations. Of course, I'm going to go to Alaska. Actually, Alaska cruise sounds more Sheila Gunn Reid's speed than a Caribbean cruise. In fact, Skagway looks fun. Guys might have to leave me behind so I can run for mayor.
Well, you know what? That Caribbean cruise was fantastic, and we did miss you, Sheila. I mean, I was trying to link up all the Rebel News personalities with Gilligan's Island characters. I mean, Ezra, of course, he's the skipper. He is the boss after all. I guess Alexa, Ginger, you would have been Marianne. And the correct answer, folks, always, Marianne or Ginger, it is always, always Marianne.
Aw, thank you.
But you weren't there. You were AWOL.
I
so,
know. You know what? And if you get shipwrecked, you do want someone with strong survival skills.
Yeah.
You know? That's me.
Exactly.
Speaking of strong survival skills, everybody, I hope you have some, because I'm going to expose you to something that will make you want to die. And it is Montreal Pride. Alexa Lavoie was out there.
Oh, geez.
And she was taking in, as I said, the cornucopia, real feast for the eyeballs out there. And there was a breakdown between the left. There is a family feud unfolding, and it unfolded on the streets of Montreal. So the usual pro-Hamas crazy people who occupy the universities around that neck of the woods They were out there blocking the streets when the Pride people came along. And normally these guys are all on the, like, completely homogenous when it comes to their worldview, but things are falling apart. And I'm here for it. As I said in the morning staff meeting, I'm cheering for mutually assured destruction. So as Alexa says, the anti-Israel brigade of the Pride March comes out in support for Gaza, which is run under Islamic law, which throws gay people off buildings. So I know in Toronto, they were sort of blocking the streets. The Hamas marchers were blocking the Pride marchers. And I was like, it's time. It's time. But I think the Queers for, what is it? Queers for Palestine. What do they call it? Queers for Palestine.
Sheila,
they're there and they're not getting it.
And that is the group I have most empathy for. Think about it. You're a queer for Palestine. So you're with the queer parade, but then the Palestinians come and shut down your big day out in the sun having fun.
Right.
Which side do you choose? Because you're queers for Palestine.
Right. And if you are a queer for Palestine in Palestine, you know where you live
Oh.
now? Tel Aviv. That's where you live.
In that apartheid state of Israel?
Yeah. Well, it is apartheid state, but it's
unbelievable.
Jews can't go certain places. But let's show this video. If you are gay in Palestinian-controlled territories, you have to flee to safety in Israel, and these people are just absolutely clueless about it. So let's show this. Dyke for Palestine. You know what? Off to Ramallah with this. Off to Ramallah, and you can just go try walking around as a dude in a black bikini top and see how far that gets you on the streets of Ramallah.
But you know, Sheila, what gets me is really what streets were those streets in? And I say that because I was paying close attention to all the flags, and I saw, you know, the transgender flag and the flag of Palestine and the Turkish flag and the Lebanon flag. You know what I didn't see? I didn't see one Canadian flag, or for that matter, one Quebec fleur-de-lis flag. Not one.
Yeah, that fleur-de-lis has Catholic history, so we wouldn't want that. Yeah, I mean, just these people are so ridiculous. A man walking the streets in a black bikini, calling himself a queer for Palestine. Okay, you know what? Go try it out. Go try it out. Let's just move ahead. We've got Alexa.
Oh, and Sheila,
now
if I may say,
go ahead.
One thing is, was that a parade of any political or ideological movement or members of Comic-Con getting down to San Diego early? And secondly, when I look at those two groups, you know, radical transgenders and then the radical pro-Hamas people, all I can think of, Sheila, is the tagline for the movie Aliens versus Predator. No matter which side wins, we lose.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly it. And I don't know. I watch this stuff and I start to think, you know, maybe I live a little too close to town, and I live far from town. Like, I just need to get further away from town. Let's show this. Now, this is what the far left radical gender ideologists, they are anti-Semitic. They absolutely are, because the one woman waving the flag of Israel, where gays and everybody else have the same rights, not special rights, same rights, She's there waving the flag of Israel, and she has to be protected by 4 cops.
And you know what, Sheila? I want to give credit where it's due because I call
Good
them as
for
I
her.
see them. I think the Montreal Police Service is probably the worst law enforcement agency in our entire Dominion. But like a broken clock that is correct twice a day, they are rightfully protecting this brave young lady to fly that flag. Because I'll tell you this, in Toronto, she's being arrested. That's what happens. Happened to Salman Sima. Same set of circumstances. I don't even think it was the Israeli flag. I think it was the Canadian flag. It's happened to me twice just for trying to cover these rallies. So good on the Montreal Police for saying, you know what, we understand this is kind of like waving a red flag at a bull in the stadium. But you know what? She has every right to do so. And they protected her. So good on them for that.
But look how anti-Semitic the left is. What the sheer size of the Queers for Palestine march, the Chickens for Colonel Sanders march, versus this one brave lady holding a flag.
Yeah.
And the peaceful left, she's got to be protected by 4 cops.
Yeah.
And what if she wasn't?
It's so sad, Sheila. Wouldn't it be great if there were like 5,000 people waving Israel flags and Quebec flags and the Canadian flag? Because I have to tell you, we know that Canadian public support is not on the side of these pro-Hamas people. The last poll I saw, it was more than 80% of Canadians did not agree with them. But wouldn't it be so wonderful to see that support literally mobilized with boots on the ground and do these counter demonstrations? And yes, I know that's going to make things tough for the Toronto Police Service, which isn't about law enforcement anymore. It's about keeping the peace, which means turning a blind eye to actual crime. But wouldn't you love to see that, Sheila?
The problem is this was at a gay pride parade. And so people who believe in common sense and self-determination and the right to defend yourself and to be free from terrorism, they don't march in pride parades, because pride parades are basically NDP marches with rainbows. And so the normals are not welcome, nor do they want to participate in this sort of stuff. So this is what you get. You get radical gender ideology meets terrorism support marching in the streets of Montreal, and normal people just stay home because this. You're telling me that the same people who think they have a right to dress half naked and wiggle their wieners at other people's kids also have sympathy for terrorists? Well, you don't say. Like, there's not a strain of morality that exists on that side that I can sort of dig out of any of it. It just, I don't see it there.
And Sheila, on the subject of 2-tier policing, since you brought up nudity, I'm not sure how much of it was at the Montreal Pride.
There was enough. I saw, like, what a terrible day to have eyes when I was reviewing Alexa's videos. For sure, there was a lot.
But here's my question. And I even interviewed somebody last year who called 911 in Toronto to report naked men on, I think it was Bloor Street, and the people on 911 shrugging it off, saying, oh, yeah, well, that's the Pride Parade. That doesn't make it legal. But more to the point, and if there's anyone out there that would like to send us a live chat to educate me, because I've done a lot of thought about this, and I can't figure it out. Sheila, what does nudity have to do with being prideful? I mean, I could make the case I'm a proud heterosexual male. I ain't taking off my clothes at the, Santa Claus parade or the St. Patrick's Day parade and going naked. So what's the connection with pride and nudity? Last month, you and I went up to the Bear Oaks nudist resort. Don't worry, folks, we kept our clothes on. But that's,
I put on an extra clothes.
Yeah. And Sheila came through like a trooper. She had all kinds of butterflies in her tummy. But the point is, Sheila, that's a private nudist colony. You're free to do whatever you want, but you're not free to do that on a public street. It is indecency. So why isn't that law enforced? A, and B, what is the connection between LGBTQ pride and going naked? I don't have the answers.
I can tell you. It's a tale as old as time. Actually, it's biblical. Pride and lust are each one of the 7 deadly sins, and they're being celebrated on the streets of our post-Christian society. And it makes perfect sense. You know, like gluttony is completely normalized. That's a 7 deadly sin. Sloth, so being lazy, rewarding people for not working, that's being normalized. Like we were warned about how bad this stuff is for a healthy, functioning society, and we just didn't listen. And by we, I mean the royal we, not me. I try to work hard and wear extra clothes in public.
Yeah,
and,
you know, that is a good
sorry.
point. Pride goes before a fall. But, you know, Sheila, if I could do some kind of Star Trekian bending of the time-space continuum, I would love to have it in the new reality that Pride Month is not June, it's January in the dead of winter.
Please, that's all I want.
Yeah, let's see how many people get naked during that month. Sheila, by the way, you are familiar with the term shrinkage, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
we've all seen that episode where George goes to the pool. Let's do one last video from Alexa, and this is the family feud that I alluded to earlier. The pro-Hamas mob has blocked the Montreal Pride that included Gays for Palestine. Police are on the scene with the group. Sheila can be happier about it. Let's watch.
Were we getting a plug there, Sheila?
Were we?
Or I thought I heard Rebel something.
Oh, probably Rebel sucks,
Yeah.
if I had to guess.
Hey, listen, bad publicity, good publicity. Just get our name right. I'm happy.
Yeah, I don't care if these people don't like me. In fact, I'm like, can we do other things that make them not like me? Yeah. So the Queers for Palestine, who are just sort of self-flagellate, evidence be damned, it's still not enough for their Hamas allies to like them. And they will still march en masse in support of these Hamas weirdos. They will. They'll be at the Hamas march next weekend for sure. Same people.
You know, I have no explanation for this. It just shows you how delusional the far left is, Sheila. You can't make sense out of this.
This is why all the normal gays stay home from the Pride
Oh, you're
parade.
right.
Like I look at this and they're like, no, thank you. None of this for us, thanks. They're staging a die-in.
Oh, yeah,
and
that
stop
doesn't mean
the
they're really
march.
going to die. That means they're just going to lie down on a hot summer day. Oh, what martyrdom. Oh,
They're having a
look
little
at that.
relax.
Yeah.
That's called a siesta. That's- Jeez. Olivia, do we need to take an ad break or we want to keep going? Okay, let's do an ad break here and then we'll go on from there.
Ladies and gentlemen, Leapin' Lincoln J here with none other than the Menzoid. Say, Menzoid, we're enjoying a marvelous summer so far, but a lot of Rebel News viewers are asking, what sort of fashion tips do you have for them in the weeks ahead?
Well, let me tell you something, Leapin' Lincoln. There are all kinds of fashion trends out there for the summer of 2024. There are animal prints ranging from cheetah to zebra. There are those awesome straw hats. And of course, there's that classic teeny-weeny polka dot bikini. But if you don't have one particular item in your summertime ensemble,
I said, let Trumpomania
Run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
Rebel News now has the hottest fashion accessories of the summer. I'm talking Trumpomania t-shirts for $39. I'm talking Trumpomania tank tops for only $35. And when summer's over, folks, no problem. We have Trumpomania sweatshirts and hoodies starting at $55. And brother, when you want to be styling and profiling as you drink your Morning Joe, we even have Trumpomania coffee mugs for just $29. It's all available at the rebelnewsstore.com. Hey, Leapin' Lincoln, try these verses on for size. Roses are red, violets are blue. Hey, Kamala, when Trumpomania hits the campaign trail, what you gonna do? By the way, Sheila Gunreid, I just want to say to all those cheeky monkeys out there that are body shaming me in the comment section, I haven't been on my cycling program this summer because I blew my knee out, and it is actually depressing me, to tell you the truth. So that might explain some of the extra lard on the frame.
How dare they?
What's
How
that?
dare they? How dare they? Some of my favorite wrestlers were of the dad bod persuasion.
Oh, thank you.
Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. Okay. Hacksaw Jim Duggan. That's a normal dude out there swinging a 2x4 around in the name of freedom and liberty. How dare they, David? But
You know, one day you and I got to cut a wrestling promo, Sheila.
oh, you better believe it. I will find the sparkliest 1985 grad dress, and I will chop it up thigh high, and I will be Miss Elizabeth, but you're going to have to hike me up onto your shoulder.
With pleasure.
All right, then. It's a date. Our next story, though, or our next video is going to have people, those body shaming jerks. You will be longing for images of David Menzies in a singlet when I'm done with you in this next story, because Alexa Lavoie encountered puppy play people, which is a thing I learned about very recently in the dark recesses of the internet, and they're like furries, but dog specific. They're fetish role players anyway, and they were marching in the Pride Parade that was marketed as family friendly, though near naked men and women passed through the public streets. Let's just watch this again. Park it, body shamers, because you'll get some more of this.
Holy
No gracious. There's people in diapers. Oh my God. Did you see? Stop. Look.
Well, Sheila, you're so right. Right now, I'm feeling a whole lot better
you are.
about my ricotta cheese candy ass. Okay, so, but that is really something. When did trans-speciesism become a thing? And oh, by the way, folks, just to give you a heads up, next week I'll be going back to Windsor to cover a 3-day trial, because the mainstream media will not be covering this trial. And it is the trans cat of Windsor up on sexual assault charges when this guy pretended to be a woman, then pretended to be a cat. I don't know which sex, but it was all to get into a female shelter, and within 2 days, allegedly sexually assaulted real females in there. So that's going to be a humdinger of a trial. That's a cat. In Montreal, we have the dogs. Why, Sheila? Like I said, if you didn't know what that parade was, I would have guessed it's Comic-Con or Fan Expo. How does that have anything to do with the Rainbow Mafia?
I don't know. I have no idea. Like you say, now we're in trans-species country. We've got guys in dog masks, wearing diapers. Right now, I'm genuinely concerned about whether or not I can get gonorrhea in my eyeballs through a screen. No, people will say, Sheila, you're a prude, but look at the alternative. Look at that alternative. And like I said, friends, you never shame my friend David Menzies again, because I will just run that on a loop for you. Stop it.
Sheila, I've got a great gonorrhea anecdote if you want to hear it.
No, don't. I don't want to hear gonorrhea anecdotes. No.
Anyway.
Yeah, no. I've got a message from our friends at Rumble, and I don't know how to segue from that into their message. And it's with my deepest apologies that I cannot figure out how to transition. So let's just do a hard stop and then right into a message from our friends at Rumble at 1775coffee.com. Have you heard of the recent advertising scandal? Let me break it down for you. The CEO of Rumble, Chris Pavlovsky, recently issued an email from Inspire Brands and Dunkin' Donuts. The email explicitly states the right-wing culture of Rumble is too polarizing. Yes, too polarizing for America's right-wing. It's too polarizing for the blue-collar coffee company of America.
Wow.
Okay, guys. Isn't that, like, I would expect that from Starbucks, right? But not from Dunkin' Donuts. But Dunkin' Donuts, go woke, go broke. In other words, Dunkin' Donuts has a problem with right-wing culture and wants nothing to do with it or Rumble. Wouldn't it be nice if they told you that at the till when you were buying your coffee? So here's the solution. Stop buying products that don't support you and start supporting brands that support you. The competing coffee brand that we all need to get behind is Rumble's own 1775 coffee. For a limited time, Rumble's offering buy 2 bags of coffee and get 1 for free. Go to 1775coffee.com, enter promo code Duncan. Very clever. To get this limited time deal. That's 1775coffee.com. And I love when companies like this address a problem instead of just complaining about it. So we can complain that Dunkin' Donuts hates its own customers, but what's the solution? Sell coffee. I love it.
You know what, Sheila? I used to have a column in Marketing Magazine when that was around, and this is a classic case of a company not knowing its target audience. You're right. Dunkin' Donuts is the very antithesis of Starbucks. This is where you can get an affordable cup of coffee and a real donut, and it's real, I would argue, mostly blue-collar people. But, when I'm in the States, I love Dunkin' Donuts. I think they do have good coffee. I try to lay off those sweets, as that singlet would show you why. But it is just like Bud Light. Let's make fun of the frat boys who are buying our product by the caseload every weekend and prop up a fake woman. And, another thing, Sheila, I just learned this. I haven't done much research into it. It might be the basis for a monologue. I couldn't believe it. I heard that Harley Davidson has gone woke.
Yeah.
They're in on DEI. And I'll tell you who the happiest person is to hear that. It is the CEO of the Indian Motorcycle Company, because Harley riders, lifelong Harley riders, are going, screw this. They probably used a more colorful language. And they're getting off their Harley and moving over to Indian. I mean, Sheila, Harley Davidson? Say it ain't so.
Yeah, and it sounds like because I think it was this past weekend was Sturgis. And the Harley owners at Sturgis at the rally there were livid with the comments of the newly woke CEO. I think his name is Jochen Zeitz, with his new slew of woke company policies. Even Harley Davidson staff, according to the Daily Mail, are turning on the brand.
Wow.
Because because it's moving even more work from the American base of workers. So it's moving jobs offshore and bringing in this new woke culture. Like, what? Again, read the room. Read the room, Harley Davidson. But no.
And you know what's really worrisome, I would say, for this CEO with this revolution brewing, because you might say, well, you know, motorcycle riders, that's just really a fringe, right? It doesn't, affect a lot of people. Oh, well, you know what? When it comes to Harley Davidson, Sheila, here's a fact for you. They actually derive more revenue from licensed merchandise than they do selling motorcycles. So when all these kids who can't afford a motorcycle or don't even have a driver's license want to get in on the Harley party, they're buying bandanas and T-shirts and, all the rest of that swag. And that's where the real cash is. And if you're turning them off and they're going to be wearing Indian motorcycle swag instead, this could be a real cascading problem for this company. When do you think they'll do a quasi mea culpa like Anheuser-Busch did with the Bud Light fiasco, Sheila?
I think they'll need a new CEO before they do that, and a big loss in their bottom line before that happens. Just like Bud Light, that's how this stuff goes. Go woke, then bottom out, and then that's the end of that guy's job, hopefully. So we'll see how it goes. But we should move along.
Okay.
Because we're going to end up over time because we're at the end of the show. But I just know that David Menzies, not only can you be a wrestler, you can be a woman in 2024. And now
I prefer a person with a vagina, Sheila. Thank you. I'm just following the orders and the example of our Supreme Court justice.
Right. But you can also be a breakdancer at the Olympics, as was the case with this breakdancing lady in her late 30s named Ray Gunn. No relation, thank God. I just want to stress that. No relation. This is what she comes out and does. Now, we can have arguments about whether or not breakdancing should be at the Olympics. But at least some of them have some athletic skills. This is if I was trying to embarrass my kids and I was like, look at me, kids, I'm breakdancing, when all of their kids are at the house or their friends are at the house, this is what I would do. But this lady went to the Olympics. I think she scammed the Australians into sending her to the Olympics. I think that's what happened. She had, I forget what her background is. She's got some sort of a useless doctorate in cultural movement. And so that's why she went, but she doesn't actually train.
Unbelievable. Well, Sheila, unless you can spin on your head, I saw her stand on her head, but you got to be able to spin on your head before you're going to get into medal contention. It
was a half rotation. It was a half rotation. Like, I just don't understand. It's like,
well, I will say this. It's far better than anything I could do, but I'm not an Olympic athlete, and certainly not anywhere in the class of the...
She hops like a kangaroo because she's from Australia.
Wow.
Oh my.
So what is the complaint? That she's getting shamed for an awful performance?
Yeah, she got 0 points.
That's what happens. You lay an egg, you get booed. Live audience.
I think the real villains here, like, this is just a progressive busybody who thought that her degree in a useless genre would be enough to, I don't know, magically transform her body into that of an athlete or something. The real villains here are the Australians who sent her to allow her to embarrass their country on an international stage.
Yeah. So what is the unspoken story there, Sheila? Because obviously, if this was an unbiased panel approving the breakdancers going to Paris, they would never have approved her, right? So is there some kind of family connection? I mean, come on. Where did she finish, by the way, in term, I guess this is something they score, like, figure skating or what.
0-0. She didn't get a single point. No.
I think you deserve a medal for that. That's the equivalent of a shutout, isn't it?
I just she admitted, I think, in an interview, she doesn't really train. She didn't take it all that seriously. And her only qualification, I think, is that she, as I said, she has a master's or a doctorate in cultural movement. So this late 30s white lady,
smokes.
white lady with no skills whatsoever, thought that her busybody, useless degree, like in another world, she would just be serving you coffee at a woke coffee shop. Instead, she went to the Olympics, and now people making fun of this nonsense. This, like, at least Michael Jackson did that in a Thriller video, and it looked cool. She's saying that people are mocking me because they are misogynistic, and it's like, no, that there were other. You know who doesn't like lady breakdancers? The lady who stole a spot from a lady who could break dance, which is what she did.
Yeah. I think if there was a gold medal for most embarrassing Olympic moment, it's between that breakdancer and that poor fellow, I can't remember his name, in the pole vault, which thanks to an appendage, ironically, in the pole vault category, it knocked the thing that other pole.
No chromosomal testing required there.
That's where shrinkage would have been a benefit to that athlete.
Sometimes you do need chromosomal testing. Sometimes you don't. You didn't there. But the International Olympic Committee president says that chromosomes don't determine sex. Okay, so what does? Feelings? Basically, they're saying if it's on your passport, that's your gender.
Oh, that's the benchmark now. What's on the passport?
Right. So X, I guess, is the thing here in Canada because we're ridiculous. They're saying we don't do chromosomal testing. Again, woe to be an East German coach.
You know, Sheila, once again, these people saying, oh, don't get caught up in chromosomes and whatnot. These are the same people I would bet my life on it that during the pandemic, follow the science. These were the COVID Karens screaming at us. And by the way, with every passing week, we're finding out what science, like, the 6 feet apart, completely made up. A bunch of rubbish, masks that don't work, et cetera, et cetera. And now when it comes to the science of biology, no, that's biology's overrated, So please sit back, get a bucket of popcorn, and watch the Olympics present a man smashing in the face of a female boxer. Wow, that's entertainment. That's equity.
Yeah. Domestic violence as a spectator sport. We've Thomas Bach, he's the International Olympic Committee president, who is not returning next year or for the subsequent Olympics 4 years from now. I think in LA they're going to be. That's great. But how many people's hopes and dreams has he destroyed along the way? He said a person's sex category is not assigned based on genetics alone. Why not? And aspects of a person's biology can be altered when they pursue gender-affirming medical care. No, that's cosmetic surgery, and that doesn't change whether or not your body has undergone testosterone-induced male puberty. It just doesn't.
But Sheila, let's say we buy into that. Let's say we're wrong, the whole world is wrong, you're right. Okay. Then we defer to Linda Blade's solution for this nonsense and rubbish, which is we have an other category. So we have male, female, other. So you can be whatever the heck it is you say you are, and no one's denying you the right to play. No one's denying you the right to get a medal. But we know that isn't what these people want. They are gaming the system. We know from World Aquatics at the World Swimming Championships last October in Berlin, Sheila, they introduced the other category. Guess what? No transgenders showed up for that.
Right.
So World Aquatics went out of their way to accommodate the transgenders. And no, I'm not a transgender. I'm a real woman. And therefore, I get to swim with the woman, even though I have a penis and I'm a male and I have Y chromosomes. This is outrageous.
Right. I think it should be not just like not other, but maybe an open category.
Yeah.
So that women who won't shut up about selling out other women, saying, "Oh yeah, trans women are women too." Okay, great. You can swim against them. Get out of this. Get out of my league. And if they're women too, you go swim against them over there. But they won't go either because they know it's unfair. And you might get the odd mediocre man thinking, okay, perfect. I get to swim against the ladies and the transgenders and see if they'll win, because, without having to go through the trouble of calling yourself a lady's name. We might get some of those, but I think it should be an open category, because if all these people saying trans women are women, if they truly believe it, then they would be happy to participate in an open category and leave the sex-specific categories to everybody else. But as swimming showed, it just won't happen, because even they know it's unfair. Let's just breeze through a couple more things. We've got. Sorry, I got to scroll up. I scrolled down and I lost where I was talking. Oh, here it is. NHS. So that's the National Health Service, I believe, in the UK. I forget what it stands for. National Health Service, NHS guidance tells staff to ask men if they are pregnant before X-rays.
Well, you know what, Sheila? Little did I know, I think it was last summer or the summer before, I did an interview with a father in the Hamilton area. And he and his son going to it was in the Hamilton, I can't remember the name of the water park, but he told me that males are asked before they go down the slide if they're pregnant.
Yeah.
And what made this even more of a colossal parody is I believe the father was sporting a beard. But again, imagine that hot summer day, line up, you want to move through the line as fast as possible, and suddenly an obvious biological male is being queried whether or not he's carrying a fetus. This is all, it's just like the vice presidential candidate putting tampons in the washrooms for boys in elementary school. This is all about, I would say, over accommodating the transgender community to go along and pretend what this is normal when it is the epitome of abnormality, Sheila.
Honestly, I can't wait till these people have their faces laughed in by 12-year-old boys and 55-year-old men, because that is the age range. I don't know if you saw, we scrolled by there. They have to ask anybody between the ages of 12 and 55. So kids who have not yet been indoctrinated and who will laugh in their faces, and then the 55-year-old men headed into their curmudgeon years. I think they are also going to laugh at these woke hospital workers too. It follows an incident in which an unknowingly pregnant trans man had a CT scan. So they CT scanned a poor innocent baby because they were playing along, that person that they knew was a biological female was pretending to be a man, and they're like, okay, I guess you're a dude. We won't ask you those other questions.
Where's the Children's Aid Society when you really need them, Sheila?
Yeah, well, they don't care if we're dosing neonates with testosterone in the womb.
I go back to your great story from about a year ago, maybe longer, where you exposed the Canadian Cancer Society advocating, was it, I think, cervix screening
Yes.
for trans women who are men pretending to be women. Just one hitch. Correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't go far in math or biology, but I don't think dudes have a cervix. Sheila, is that correct?
Yeah. So there's, especially post-pandemic, Cancer screenings are way behind. The like sex-specific cancer screenings are sometimes difficult to get. There are limited resources, and so women have to wait in line behind these transgender individuals who are pretending to be women. We have to wait for our life-saving health care because we have to indulge their fantasies. It's also maybe a couple months ago, I did a story on how spironolactone, which is a cross-sex hormone given to men to induce lactation so that they can breastfeed the babies that they harvest out of the wombs of impoverished women through surrogacy, it can cause lifelong effects on the babies. But they prescribe it to indulge the fantasies of these men, and they use the baby as a fetish aid, I guess, rather than a living, breathing, innocent, vulnerable human being.
And, Sheila, to go back to your earlier point, go woke, go broke, or, get on the road towards insolvency. I'll tell you how your story affected me in terms of tangible actions. I'm a sucker for these $100 medical lottery tickets that we have. And not that I can really afford these tickets, but two things. One, if by an act of God, I win the jackpot and, win that nice house or that $1 million check, that's fantastic. And if I don't win, my money is going to a good cause. Well, if the Canadian Cancer Society, which runs one of these lotteries, is going to play this game, and I've been buying their tickets and winning nada for over 20 years, guess what? I don't support that anymore. Sick Kids has a lottery, Heart and Stroke, the Princess Margaret Hospital for cancer research. That's where my money goes. The Canadian Cancer Society, unless they course correct on this, you don't have my support anymore. I know you do good work, but if you go down that road and do this cosplay for transgenders, pretending they have a cervix, which, as Sheila said, the healthcare system is already frayed at the edges. We don't need this horse manure, then forget it. I am not going to support you with one single nickel. That's it.
I have one more story that I want to talk about similarly on this topic, kind of on the Olympics, but also at the nexus of wokeism and the LGBTQ army.
Oh, yeah.
Edmonton, progressive Edmonton. And remember how I said earlier, I'm feeling like I live too close to the city, and I don't live close to the city at all. Edmonton is in the running. Olivia, can you bring this up? Edmonton's in the running to host the 2030 Gay Games.
No.
David, start training now. You could be a break dancer. And you know what? I don't know why we need, these are the gay games. I don't think they're the trans games. So, who's prohibiting gay athletes from participating in the Olympics? I think nobody. I think there are sports that are actually pretty gay friendly, rugby being one of them on the women's side. But my joke about all of this was, how will we ever know the difference? But Sheila, what is the difference between this and what that Sodom and Gomorrah performance we saw at the opening ceremonies of the Olympics, and then that nonsense of the closing ceremonies? How would we ever know?
No, but Sheila, you've nailed it. In the Olympics, there's no qualification where it says heterosexual or homosexual. Oh, you're homosexual? I'm sorry.
You're out of here.
You have to go to the gay games, right? No. Right. So basically, what the gay games is, that's the Olympic B competition for those gays that couldn't make the real Olympic team. That's it. These are a bunch of losers, basically competing for a participation trophy. That's all.
I'm against segregation, so I don't understand this. What? Now you're self-segregating? We didn't kick you out of the sports. Why did you take your ball and run away? Except, I believe David Menzies' theory that they probably can't rise to the level of an Olympian or a national level athlete. And so we need to create this gay games for them, to celebrate, I guess, being the B team. We're celebrating that? No, I guess we are. So I anyways, the good news is Edmonton's in the running, and it's going to cost the Edmonton taxpayers a whole bunch of money. So I don't know, write your counselors or whatever we're calling them these days, and tell them no, you don't want it because of the cost associated with giving everybody a participation medal based on their sexual preferences.
Yeah, if Edmonton is diverting public money to this,
you know they will.
Yeah, well then it is no longer a credible city, Sheila, when it comes to saying we don't have money for infrastructure, we don't have money for repairs, we don't have money for a new transit line, everything that's important in making a city run. If you've got God knows how much money, and I would say even a nickel is too much to go towards something called the gay games, which, by the way, I haven't heard of until it came on our story list. I mean, like, do even gay people watch this thing? I mean, how many eyeballs does this attract?
I have no idea, but that perennial busybody, Christopher Wells, is out there pushing it. So that's how I know it's probably going to be a bad thing. We've got one more message from our friends at Rumble, and then we've got a Rumble rant to read, and then I think we'll wrap it up because we're already 20 minutes over. Our next message is from rumble.store, and I should tell you, I have my Rumble water bottle with me in the office, and it's hot or cold. So it'll keep your drinks cold for a very long time, or hot for actually a very, very long time. I left a coffee in there overnight, and I got back in my vehicle and it was still warm the next day. So rumble.store, Rumble's exclusive apparel has finally arrived. They are now offering 20% off all purchases in the Rumble store with the discount code DROP20. If you want to support the brand that is fighting for free speech and fighting for our First Amendment, this is the best way to do it. They have tees, sweaters, hats, plus much more. Go to rumble.store and make sure to enter DROP20 as the promo code to get 20% off your entire order. That's rumble.store. So I think to wrap up the show, David, we've got one more chat, a Rumble rant.
Okay.
I think we had some other stories that we can cover, but maybe if there's a video, we can just play it on the way out the door. Maminka gives us $10. A question automatically arises. Are we there yet? Meaning, when everything goes, crime, terror, perversion is normalized, it historically means the end of a civilization. Again, I'm a prepper. You know what? I think I'll be okay. I have some life skills, but it's the people who have never walked off the pavement in their Birkenstocks and who have their electric bicycles and their electric cars. You're in for a wild ride, I think.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable. And Sheila, before we do wrap things up, I know we're over. I just want to give a plug, an unsolicited plug. I'm sure you're going to appreciate it. It is to the best radio station in the Greater Toronto area. That would be Saga 960 AM.
Yes.
And it is true free speech radio, folks. And if you don't even live close to the station, you can go online, saga960am.ca. That's Saga, SAUGA, short for Mississauga, 960am.ca. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because if you are clamoring for more of the pleasure of me speaking, I'm going to be on the Richard Syrett Show today at 4:18. I'll be talking about a story we broke last week about a senior citizen who was debanked by the Bank of Nova Scotia. Oh, why? Is she a grifter, money launderer, a terrorist? No, she suggested that senior citizens should be part of Scotiabank's diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. And that rubbed the he/him manager the wrong way. And she is out in the cold, if you can imagine. So if you ever want to see some of your, or I shouldn't say hear some of your Rebel News personalities like Sheila Gunn Reid, often a guest on Saga 960, Ezra Levant. I think Sid Vizard was on the other day. It is wonderful. And Richard Syrett in the afternoons, drive home, and Mark Petroni in the mornings. You are going to get real, unvarnished truth, not the echo chamber of mainstream media. Which is to say, there are so many cats on those terrestrial stations, Sheila. I'm always saying these days, if some of them don't get off the air, I'm going to stop breathing it, okay?
Yeah, and like you can trust Richard in that. I don't
Yep.
think his views have ever changed. Not like those flip-floppers like Charles Adler, who will just say whatever he's paid to say on radio, depending on who's cutting the check. So yeah, if you want more rebels, we're on Richard's show very frequently.
Yeah, so please tune in. It's a very free speech friendly platform, and you're going to thank me. Let me tell you that much.
Yep.
And if not, hey, listen, there's no money to refund. It's free, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, folks, I want to thank my lovely co-host, Sheila Gunn-Reid. I want to thank all of you for tuning in. I want to thank, it was Maminka, I believe, that gave us that generous $10 donation. I'm familiar with a model by the name of Minka, but I don't think that's her. Anyway,
I'm not familiar
Sheila
with any models, David.
And please don't Google that, okay, folks? I don't want to get in trouble. Sheila and I will be back on Friday. In the meantime, as always, stay safe and stay sane.
The Tax Court of Canada in downtown Hamilton recently closed, and they were citing gun violence safety in the city there. My question is, what's your reaction to this, and what are Conservative MPs doing to address gun violence in cities similar to Hamilton?
Thank you for an excellent question. It's really tragic that our once safe cities have been taken over by crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder. Trudeau and the NDP have brought in catch and release criminal justice policies that allow the same repeat violent gun criminals to be released within hours of their arrest to do the same crime all over again. Trudeau has failed to protect our borders against gun smugglers, and that's why the guns keep coming in. Licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested hunters and sport shooters are not the problem. The problem is the criminals. So common sense Conservatives will repeal the NDP Liberal catch and release criminal justice policy and bring jail and not bail for repeat violent offenders. We will secure the borders to stop smuggling of firearms, and we will pay for it by ending the insane confiscation of hunting rifles. Justin Trudeau blames Grandpa Joe's hunting rifle. I know Grandpa Joe is not the problem. The problem is the criminals we need to lock up and the smugglers we need to block. I want to protect Canadians from criminals. He wants to protect turkeys from hunters. You decide which one makes most sense.
Balls belong in women's sports, just as long as they're not attached to a biological male. Did you see the shameful moment in the Paris Olympics when Italian female boxer Angela Carini had to forfeit her match just seconds in because she was boxing against a biological male?
Solid straight right hand from Khalif there. About being pulled off by the referee.
It was shocking. Angela said she had to quit because she had never been punched so hard. Now, Rebel News, you know, we've been fighting to keep women's spaces safe, especially women's sports. If you agree with us, then you will love our new t-shirt design. So you can proudly say that you think women shouldn't have to be beaten up by biological males in their own sports. Our design says no human balls in women's sports. It's a bit cheeky, and it lets people know you stand with Angela and all the other female athletes like her who deserve better. Go to rebelnewsstore.com now to order your t-shirt today.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been, you know?
Joe Biden has endorsed his Vice President Kamala Harris as the new Democrat nominee. We'll see what happens, but Kamala loves to use the phrase to see what can be unburdened by what has been.
What can be unburdened by what has been? What can be unburdened
by what has been. What can be, unburdened by what has been. What can be, unburdened by what has been.
If you want to be unburdened by Kamala Harris, please head over to rebelnewsstore.com and get this t-shirt.
Hi, everybody. As you know, every year we do a fundraiser for Rebel News that's super fun. It's a Rebel News cruise. We all go on a cruise ship together. We have dinner with each other. We have seminars when the ship's at sea, like Q&A sessions. And the rest of the time is your own. It's a vacation. It's a way to connect with other Rebel News enthusiasts. It's a way to check in with me and Sheila Gunn Reid and Drea Humphrey and David Menzies. Tons of rebels are on the trip, and at the end of the day, it's a way to keep Rebel News strong because there's a little extra added to the cost, which is how we float the boat here at Rebel News. It's a fundraiser. Here's the next Rebel News cruise in case you've always wanted to go on one. It sets sail out of Vancouver June 18th, 2025. It's a week-long, June 18th to 2025, and it's Vancouver to Alaska. So it's a lot easier to get to than a Caribbean cruise where you have to fly to Florida to set sail. Starts in Vancouver, where I'll greet you, Sheila, David, Alexa Lavoie, Drea Humphrey. It's a super fun trip. I've done it before. We go to Skagway, which is where the gold rush started. We go to Glacier National Park, which is as beautiful as it sounds. Go to rebelnewscruise.com to learn more, to check the pricing, and to book your cabin. Just let me rattle off some of the details of the places we're going. It's called the Alaska Inside Passage Cruise. If you know what that means, you go up right along the coast. It's on Holland America, so it's nice. It's the MS Zandam. That's the name of the ship. Obviously, we start off in Vancouver, next the Tracy Arm Inlet, then Juneau, the capital of Alaska, Skagway, by far my favorite city. It's amazing. Then Glacier Bay. Maybe the most beautiful place I've ever been in my life. Back to Ketchikan and then down to Vancouver. If you like cruising, this is a super way to do it with fellow travelers, ideologically speaking. If you've never cruised before, this is a great way to start. And if you've been on Rebel News cruises, well, you don't want to miss this one. Again, for details, go to rebelnewscruise.com. It's next June, so just under a year away, but not too soon to order and to get the early bird discount. I'll see you at sea.